The signal came from deep space on a Tuesday morning. Commander Elena Torres was drinking her third cup of coffee at the Outer Rim monitoring station when the computers started screaming. The sound was unlike anything she had heard before, not the usual static of solar storms or the predictable pings of commercial traffic. This was different. This was desperate. Torres set down her mug and leaned forward. The signal was coming in clear now, translated through the universal communication protocols. A voice, definitely alien, speaking in broken but understandable standard English. "Help us, please. Anyone who can hear this. We are dying. Our world is being consumed. The Galactic Council has abandoned us. We have nowhere else to turn. This is the Zephyrian Collective. Our coordinates follow. Please, if there is anyone out there with the courage to help, we beg you." The message repeated 3 more times before cutting to silence. Torres stared at her screen for a long moment. She had heard about the Zephyrians before, crystalline beings from the far edge of the galaxy. They were peaceful traders known for their beautiful harmony-based language and their gentle nature. What could possibly threaten them so badly that they would send out a distress call to anyone willing to listen? She pulled up the coordinates. The Zephyrian homeworld was 3 weeks away at maximum jump speed. It was far outside human space in a region controlled by the Galactic Council. Officially, humanity had no business being there. The Council had made that very clear when they denied Earth membership 5 years ago. Too violent, they had said. Too unpredictable. Deathworlders have no place in civilized space. Torres forwarded the message up the chain of command and went back to her coffee. But she couldn't shake the desperation in that alien voice. 2 hours later, her terminal chimed with an incoming priority message from Earth Command. Admiral Sarah Chen's face appeared on the screen. Torres had never spoken to the Admiral directly, but everyone in the fleet knew her reputation. Chen was the woman who had held the Mars defense line during the asteroid war. She was also known for making decisions that other officers wouldn't dare make. "Commander Torres," Chen said without preamble, "I've reviewed the Zephyrian distress call. What's your assessment?" Torres straightened in her chair. "Ma'am, the signal appears genuine. Voice stress analysis confirms extreme distress. The Zephyrians have never been known to lie or exaggerate. If they're calling for help, they need it." And the Council's response? "I checked the diplomatic channels, Admiral. The Council received the same transmission 6 hours before we did. They've officially classified the situation as too dangerous for intervention. No member species is willing to respond." Chen's expression didn't change, but Torres caught a slight tightening around her eyes. "I see. And what do you think we should do about that, Commander?" Torres hesitated. This was dangerous territory. Suggesting military action outside human space could end her career, but the memory of that desperate voice wouldn't leave her alone. "Ma'am, with respect, since when do humans let bureaucrats decide who lives and dies?" For the first time in the conversation, Chen smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "My thoughts exactly, Commander. I'm putting together a response fleet. You've just volunteered to be our liaison officer. Ma'am, pack your bags, Torres. We're going to show the galaxy what Deathworlders do when someone calls for help." The connection ended, leaving Torres staring at a blank screen. She should have been terrified. Going against the Galactic Council was career suicide at best. At worst, it could start a war. But as she began packing her gear, she found herself grinning. 3 days later, the human fleet assembled at the edge of the solar system. It wasn't the largest force Earth had ever put together, but it was certainly the most advanced. The flagship was the Dreadnought Indomitable, a massive vessel built for one purpose, bringing overwhelming firepower to wherever it was needed most. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge, watching the other ships take their positions. 12 destroyers, 6 cruisers, and 2 assault carriers filled with Marines who were eager for action. The Council might think humans were too violent for civilized space, but Chen knew that sometimes violence was exactly what civilization needed. "Admiral," Torres said, approaching with a data pad. "Final communications check complete. All ships are ready for jump." Chen nodded. "Any word from the Council?" "They've demanded we abort the mission. They're threatening sanctions if we proceed." "Noted and ignored," Chen said calmly. "What about the Zephyrians?" "Still broadcasting their distress signal. If anything, it's gotten more desperate." "Admiral, they mentioned something called Devourers in their latest transmission. They say these creatures are consuming their world's energy cores." Chen turned to face her. "Energy parasites. That explains why the Council won't act. They're probably terrified their own worlds could be next. And we're not? The Admiral's smile was cold and sharp. Commander, we're from a world where everything tries to kill us every single day. Our ancestors fought saber-toothed tigers with pointed sticks and won. Do you really think some space parasites are going to scare us? Torres found herself grinning again. No, ma'am, I don't think they will. All ships, Chen announced over the fleet communications channel. This is Admiral Chen. Today we respond to a call for help from beings who have nowhere else to turn. The galaxy may think we're too dangerous, too violent, too unpredictable. Today we're going to prove them right. We are dangerous to anyone who threatens the innocent. We are violent toward those who prey on the weak. And we are unpredictable because we do what's right instead of what's safe. She paused, looking out at the stars. The Zephyrians called for help. A Deathworlders fleet is answering. Jump in 60 seconds. The countdown began across all 21 ships. Torres watched the numbers fall on her screen and felt a strange mix of excitement and determination. They were about to do something that would either save an entire species or get them all killed trying. As the final seconds ticked away, Torres thought about the desperate voice in that alien transmission. Someone had called for help and humans had answered. It was as simple and as complicated as that. The jump drives engaged and the human fleet disappeared into hyperspace, carrying hope toward a distant world that thought it had been abandoned by the universe. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyrian system and immediately knew they were too late to prevent disaster. What should have been a beautiful collection of crystal worlds orbiting a gentle blue star was now a scene of cosmic horror. Dear God, whispered Commander Torres from her position at the sensor station. Admiral, you need to see this. Admiral Chen moved to stand behind her, staring at the tactical display. 3 of the 7 Zephyrian worlds were completely dark, their energy signatures gone. The remaining 4 flickered weakly, like dying candles in a hurricane. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what was feeding on them. Those aren't energy parasites, Chen said quietly. Those are biomechanical entities the size of small moons. The Devourers moved through space like living asteroids, their surfaces covered in what looked like metallic veins that pulsed with stolen energy. Massive tentacle-like appendages reached down to the planets below, draining the crystal formations that powered Zephyrian civilization. Each creature was easily 3 kilometers long and covered in what appeared to be both organic tissue and technological components. Incoming transmission from the Zephyrian. Homeworld, reported Lieutenant Kim from communications. Put it through, Chen ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was weak and harmonious like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Unknown vessels, please identify yourselves. We are grateful for any response to our distress call, but we must warn you, this system is no longer safe. The Devourers have consumed 3 of our worlds already. You should flee while you still can. Chen stepped forward. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. We received your distress call and came to help. We're not leaving. There was a long pause. When the Zephyrian voice returned, it carried a note of confusion. Earth Defense Force? But you are from Earth, are you not? That is a Class 12 death world. Your species should not be able to survive in space, let alone travel between systems. Yeah, we get that a lot, Chen replied dryly. Can you give us more information about these Devourers? How many are there, and what are their capabilities? Admiral Chen, with the greatest respect, you must understand. These creatures have been consuming worlds for millions of years. They are nearly indestructible. The Galactic Council sent a survey team to study them 50 years ago. None returned. Even if your people have somehow overcome the limitations of Deathworld evolution, you cannot face these monsters. Please save yourselves while you can. Torres looked up from her sensor readings. Admiral, I'm detecting 17 distinct Devourer entities in the system. They appear to be coordinating their feeding patterns. And Admiral, they're heading for the homeworld next. Chen nodded grimly. How long until they reach the homeworld? 6 hours at their current speed. The Admiral turned back to the communication channel. Zephyrian Control, this is Admiral Chen. We understand the danger and we appreciate your concern for our safety. But we didn't come here to run away. We came here to fight. Please transmit all available data on the Devourer's capabilities and weaknesses. Admiral, you do not understand. These creatures feed on energy. They have consumed the combined firepower of 3 Council fleets. Their bioarmor is immune to energy weapons. They can drain the power from any technological system that gets too close. What could Deathworlders possibly do against such beings? Chen's smile was predatory. Well, for starters, they're not immune to kinetic weapons. Torres, break down our arsenal for our new friends. Torres grinned as she accessed the fleet database. Zephyrian Control, our fleet is equipped with railguns, missile batteries, nuclear warheads, plasma cannons, and enough conventional explosives to crack a small moon. We also have 3,000 Marines trained in hostile environment combat. They're very excited about the opportunity to fight something new. The silence from the Zephyrian homeworld stretched for nearly a full minute. Finally, the harmonious voice returned, sounding distinctly shaken. You brought nuclear weapons into our system? And warriors who are excited about fighting the Devourers? That's correct, Chen confirmed. We also brought field surgeons, combat engineers, and enough medical supplies to treat anyone who needs help. We're here to solve your problem, not add to it. I must consult with the Collective Council. Please stand by. While they waited, Chen studied the tactical display. The Devourers were massive, but they moved slowly and appeared to have no understanding of military tactics. They simply moved from planet to planet, consuming everything in their path like cosmic locusts. Admiral, called Lieutenant Park from the weapons station. I've been analyzing the Devourer signatures. These things are definitely organic at their core, but they've incorporated technology into their biology. They're like living ships, but with no apparent weak points visible from the outside. They have to have weak points, Chen mused. Everything does. We just need to get close enough to find them. The Zephyrian communication channel crackled back to life. Admiral Chen, the Collective Council has reached a decision. We will transmit all available data on the Devourers. We cannot ask you to sacrifice your people for ours. But if you are truly willing to fight these creatures, we will provide whatever assistance we can. Understood. Transmit the data and prepare your people for evacuation if necessary. We're going to end this threat today. As the Zephyrian data began flowing into the human computers, Chen turned to address her bridge crew. All right, people. We've got 6 hours to figure out how to kill 17 moon-sized space monsters that have been terrorizing the galaxy for millions of years. Anyone have any bright ideas? Commander Torres raised her hand. Well, Admiral, they feed on energy, right? So they probably have some kind of internal energy processing system. If we could get inside one of them... Go on. We treat them like boarding actions. Send in teams with explosives and see if we can blow them up from the inside. At worst, we learn something useful. At best, we start evening the odds. Chen's grin was feral. I like it. Get me Colonel Martinez from the Marines. It's time to plan humanity's first xenobiology field exam. The bridge crew began moving with purpose, and Chen felt the familiar thrill of pre-battle anticipation. The galaxy thought humans were too dangerous for civilized space. They were about to find out just how right they were. The first human attack began exactly 4 hours and 37 minutes after the fleet's arrival. Admiral Chen had decided not to wait for the Devourers to reach the Zephyrian homeworld. Instead, she ordered the fleet to intercept the closest cluster of feeding creatures at what had once been Zephyr 3. All ships. This is Admiral Chen. We're going to test our theories on the 3 Devourers currently attached to the dead world. Remember, these creatures feed on energy, so keep power systems at minimum until you're ready to fire. Once you start shooting, don't stop until your target is dead or you are. The human fleet approached in a formation that would have horrified any Galactic Council tactician. Instead of the careful, long-range approach favored by civilized species, the humans drove straight toward their targets like a pack of hungry wolves. Contact, announced Lieutenant Park. The Devourers have detected our approach. Admiral, they're not moving away from their feeding sites. They're actually extending appendages toward us. Probably trying to drain our ships like they did the Council fleets, Chen observed calmly. Let them try. All ships begin kinetic bombardment. Show these parasites what Deathworlders do to bullies. The first railgun salvo lit up space with streaks of accelerated metal. The closest Devourer, a massive creature that looked like a cross between a jellyfish and a mechanical horror, took 12 direct hits along its central mass. The impact sent chunks of biomechanical matter spinning into space. Direct hits confirmed, reported Park. Target is damaged but still active. Wait, it's trying to drain power from our railguns. Good luck with that, Torres muttered. Our railguns run on kinetic energy. There's nothing to drain. The Devourer seemed confused by its inability to neutralize the human weapons. It extended more tentacles toward the attacking ships, but the humans simply accelerated past them, firing continuously as they maneuvered. Second wave. Commence missile barrage, Chen ordered. 200 nuclear-tipped missiles streaked toward the wounded devourer. The creature managed to destroy half of them with energy discharges, but the remaining 100 reached their target. The nuclear explosions lit up the dead system like a new sun. When the radiation cleared, the devourer was still alive, but barely. Large sections of its biomechanical shell had been blown away, revealing pulsing organic structures beneath. "There's our weak point," Chen said with satisfaction. "Marines, you're up. Board that thing and find its central nervous system, then blow it to hell." Colonel Martinez's voice crackled over the communication channel. "Copy that, Admiral. 1st and 3rd Battalions, prepare for hostile environment insertion. Remember your training. If it moves and it's not human, kill it. If it doesn't move and it looks important, blow it up." The assault carriers launched their boarding pods directly at the wounded devourer. The creature tried to intercept them with energy blasts, but the pods were designed to survive atmospheric entry on Deathworlds. A few bursts of alien energy weren't going to stop them. Staff Sergeant Lisa Quinn was in the first pod to penetrate the devourer's outer shell. As the pod's doors blasted open, she found herself staring into what looked like the inside of a living cathedral. Organic walls pulsed with bioluminescent veins and the air was filled with a low harmonic humming. "This is Quinn. We're inside the target. It's definitely alive in here. Looks like some kind of internal ecosystem. We've got corridors that seem to be naturally formed, and the walls are warm to the touch." "Copy that, Quinn," Martinez responded. "Find the brain or power source and plant your charges. We don't have time for sightseeing." Quinn's squad advanced through the organic corridors following the strongest concentration of bioluminescent activity. The devourer seemed to be trying to defend itself, but its internal defenses were laughably inadequate against humans. A few small parasitic organisms tried to attack the Marines, only to be cut down by rifle fire. "Contact ahead," reported Corporal Davis. "Looks like some kind of central chamber. There's a massive organic structure in the center. It's pulsing with energy." Quinn peered around the corner and whistled low. The chamber was enormous, easily 50 meters across. In the center was what could only be described as a biological computer. A massive brain-like structure covered in metallic implants and surrounded by flowing energy conduits. "Found the brain," she reported. "It's bigger than my apartment, but it'll blow up just fine. Planting charges now." The human demolition charges were designed to level buildings on high-gravity worlds. Against an organic target, they were massive overkill. Quinn's team placed 12 charges around the central brain structure and began their withdrawal. "Charges set," Quinn reported, as her squad reached their extraction point. "Requesting immediate pickup." "Negative on pickup," Martinez replied. "Emergency extraction via explosive decompression. Seal your suits and prepare for rapid exit." Quinn grinned inside her helmet. This was why she loved serving with humans. Other species would have tried to safely evacuate their people. Humans just blew a hole in the side of the creature and rode the explosion out. The shaped charges detonated simultaneously, creating a massive breach in the devourer's hull. Quinn and her squad were swept out into space by the rush of escaping atmosphere, their magnetic grapples automatically deploying to catch them. 3 seconds later, the internal charges exploded. The devourer's death was spectacular. The creature convulsed violently as its central nervous system was destroyed, then began to collapse in on itself. Energy discharges arced across its surface as biological systems failed in cascade. Within minutes, the 3-kilometer monster was nothing but floating debris. "First target eliminated," Chen announced with satisfaction. "All units repeat boarding procedure on remaining targets. We've found their weakness. They're not used to enemies who fight from the inside." The remaining 2 devourers at Zephyr 3 tried to coordinate their defense, but they were dealing with an enemy unlike anything they had encountered in millions of years. The humans didn't try to drain their energy or outmaneuver them. They just hit them with overwhelming kinetic force and then sent warriors inside to destroy them from within. Within 2 hours, all 3 devourers at the dead world were floating in pieces. The human fleet regrouped and began moving toward the next concentration of targets. "Admiral," Torres reported, "we're receiving communications from the Zephyrian homeworld. They want to know if we actually just killed 3 devourers." "Tell them yes," Chen replied, "and tell them we're just getting started. We've got 14 more targets to eliminate and the day is still young." As the human fleet accelerated toward their next targets, Admiral Chen allowed herself a moment of grim satisfaction. The galaxy had abandoned the Zephyrians because the Devourers were too dangerous to fight. But humans had learned long ago that the most dangerous predators made the best prey, if you were willing to get close enough to bite back. By the end of the first day, Admiral Chen's fleet had eliminated 9 Devourers. The remaining 8 creatures had begun displaying behavior that the Zephyrians found deeply disturbing. They were fleeing. "Admiral," reported Commander Torres, "the surviving Devourers are attempting to leave the system. They've abandoned their feeding sites and are heading for deep space." Chen studied the tactical display with cold satisfaction. "Run all you want," she muttered. "You're not leaving this system alive." She opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships pursue and destroy. No survivors. We don't want these things regrouping somewhere else." The human fleet split into hunting groups, each pursuing a fleeing devourer. What followed was a running battle across the Zephyrian system. The creatures were fast when they wanted to be, but human ships were faster. And more importantly, humans were relentless. Captain Rodriguez of the destroyer Tenacious cornered the largest remaining devourer near the system's outer gas giant. The creature was easily 4 kilometers long and had integrated more technology into its biology than the others. "This one's different," Rodriguez reported to the fleet. "It's got some kind of energy shield and what looks like weapon systems. I think this might be their leader." "Copy that, Captain," Chen replied. "All ships converge on Rodriguez's position. If this is their alpha, we want to make sure it dies properly." The Alpha Devourer proved to be significantly more dangerous than its smaller siblings. Its energy shield absorbed the first wave of railgun fire, and it responded with focused energy beams that could punch through human armor. The destroyer Relentless took a direct hit and had to withdraw with severe damage. "This thing's got teeth," Rodriguez observed as he maneuvered to avoid another energy blast. "Recommendations, Admiral?" Chen's response was typical of human tactical thinking. "Overwhelm it. All ships, continuous fire. If its shield can absorb energy, let's see how much energy it can absorb before it breaks." What followed was a demonstration of human industrial capacity applied to warfare. 21 ships opened fire simultaneously, pouring enough kinetic energy into the Alpha Devourer's shields to power a small city. The creature's defensive systems held for almost 3 minutes before catastrophically failing. "Shields down," reported Lieutenant Park. "Target is exposed. Marines, you know what to do," Chen ordered. The boarding action on the Alpha Devourer was more challenging than the previous operations. The creature's internal defenses were sophisticated, including biological weapons that could eat through standard body armor. But human Marines had trained on worlds where the environment itself was actively trying to kill them. A few acid-spitting parasites weren't going to stop them. Sergeant Major Harrison led the assault team. Through what appeared to be the creature's central nervous system, a vast network of biological computers and energy conduits. The complexity was staggering, but the mission remained simple. "Found the main processing center," Harrison reported. "This thing's got a brain the size of a football field, and it's definitely aware we're here. It keeps trying to communicate." "Can you understand what it's saying?" Chen asked. "Something about how we shouldn't be able to harm it, and how it survived for millions of years. Standard predator behavior, lots of threats and posturing. Nothing we haven't heard from Earth's apex predators." "Tell it that its survival streak just ended," Chen replied coldly. "Plant your charges and withdraw." The Alpha Devourer's death was even more spectacular than its siblings. When the demolition charges detonated, the creature's stored energy reserves exploded outward in a cascade of brilliant light. For a moment, it looked like a new star had been born in the Zephyrian system. "Alpha target eliminated," Harrison reported as his team was recovered from the debris field. "Whatever these things were, they're extinct now," Chen nodded with satisfaction. "All ships continue pursuit of remaining targets. I want a complete sterilization of this system. Every last devourer dies today." The hunt continued for another 6 hours. The remaining devourers tried everything they could think of to escape, hiding in asteroid fields, attempting to jump to hyperspace, even trying to burrow into the gas giant's atmosphere. Nothing worked. Human persistence was legendary even among their own species, and these creatures had made the mistake of threatening innocents under human protection. The last devourer died at 23:47 ship time, torn apart by concentrated railgun fire from 3 destroyers. As its remains scattered into space, Admiral Chen finally allowed herself to relax. System clear, Torres reported. All Devourer signatures eliminated. No survivors detected. Excellent. Now comes the hard part. Cleanup and restoration. I want full environmental scans of all the affected worlds. These creatures might have left behind contamination or parasites. Ma'am, interrupted Lieutenant Kim from communications. We're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian homeworld. They're asking if we really eliminated all the Devourers. Chen opened a channel to the planet. Zephyrian Control, this is Admiral Chen. All Devourer entities in your system have been eliminated. The threat is over. The silence that followed was so long that Chen began to wonder if the communication system had failed. Finally, the harmonious voice returned, but it sounded shaky and uncertain. Admiral Chen, our deep space sensors confirm your report. In less than 24 hours, you have eliminated creatures that have terrorized our region of space for millions of years. We do not know how to thank you. You don't need to thank us, Chen replied. You called for help and we answered. That's what civilized beings do for each other. But Admiral, your worlds are damaged. 3 planets have been completely drained of energy. The ecosystem damage is catastrophic. Even with our technology, it would take centuries to restore what was lost. Chen's smile was visible in her voice. Don't worry about that. We brought our terraforming specialists with us. What looks impossible to you is just another engineering challenge to us. We'll have your worlds restored and better than new within 6 months. The stunned silence from the Zephyrian homeworld told Chen everything she needed to know about how the galaxy viewed human capabilities. They saw humans as primitive Deathworlders who had somehow managed to build weapons. They had no idea that humans were also the galaxy's best engineers, doctors, and environmental restoration specialists. They were about to learn. 3 months after the last Devourer died, the first Galactic Council observation ship arrived in the Zephyrian system. Its crew expected to find the ruins of a once great civilization and the scattered wreckage of a human fleet that had bitten off more than it could chew. Instead, they found something that challenged everything they thought they knew about Deathworlders. Council observer Vex 9 stared at his sensor readings and ran the scan 3 more times, certain that his equipment was malfunctioning. The readings showed not only that the Zephyrian system was fully inhabited and thriving, but that 3 dead worlds had somehow been restored to full ecological function. Observer Vex 9 to Council Command. He transmitted on the emergency channel. I am observing impossible readings from the Zephyrian system. Requesting immediate backup and verification equipment. The response came back within hours. Observer Vex 9, clarify impossible readings. Are the humans present in the system? Affirmative, Council Command. Human fleet elements are stationed throughout the system, but that's not the impossible part. The impossible part is that they appear to have restored 3 completely dead worlds to full biological function. The energy readings are off the charts, but in a positive way. These planets are more alive now than they were before the Devourer attack. The long pause that followed told Vex 9 that his superiors were having the same trouble processing this information that he was. Observer Vex 9, maintain distance and continue monitoring. Council delegation en route. Do not repeat. Do not attempt direct contact with human forces. Vex 9 continued his observations for 2 more days before the human patrol ship found him. He had been trying to remain hidden, but as it turned out, human sensor technology was significantly more advanced than the Council had believed. Unknown vessel. This is Captain Williams of the EDF patrol ship Vigilant. You are in Zephyrian protected space. Please identify yourself and state your intentions. Vex 9 considered his options and decided that honesty was probably the safest course when dealing with Deathworlders. Captain Williams, this is Observer Vex 9 of the Galactic Council Monitoring Service. I am here to assess the situation in this system following the reported Devourer incursion. I see. Well, Observer, you're welcome to tour the system and see what we've accomplished. The Zephyrians are quite proud of the restoration work. Would you like an escort to the homeworld? The casual offer to tour a system that the Council had written off as a total loss left Vex 9 speechless for several moments. Yes, that would be acceptable. What Vex 9 saw during his escort to the Zephyrian homeworld redefined his understanding of what was possible. The 3 worlds that had been completely drained by the Devourers were not just restored, they were improved. Crystal formations that had taken millennia to grow naturally were now thriving in carefully planned arrangements that maximized energy efficiency. How did you accomplish this? Vex 9 asked Captain Williams during the journey. Williams shrugged as if the question surprised him. Standard terraforming techniques adapted for crystalline ecosystems. We've been doing this kind of work for decades. Earth used to be pretty messed up before we figured out how to fix ecosystems. Once you understand the principles, scaling up is just an engineering problem. But the energy readings suggest these worlds are now producing 30% more power than they did before the attack. That should be impossible. Not impossible, just inefficient the way it was before, Williams explained patiently. The Zephyrians had grown their crystal matrices randomly over thousands of years. We helped them redesign the layouts for optimal energy flow. Think of it as urban planning for crystal forests. When they reached the Zephyrian homeworld, Vex 9 was granted an audience with the Collective Council. The meeting was unlike anything in his experience as a council observer. Observer Vex 9, the lead Zephyrian counselor, sang in harmonious tones. We are pleased to meet a representative of the Galactic Council, though we confess to some confusion. When we called for help, the council informed us that the situation was too dangerous for intervention. Yet these humans arrived and eliminated the threat in less than a day. Vex 9 struggled to find a diplomatic response. The council's assessment was that the Devourers represented an unacceptable risk to any rescue mission. The creatures had destroyed 3 council survey fleets over the past century, and yet, another counselor noted, the humans lost no ships and suffered minimal casualties. Perhaps the council's assessment was incomplete? Before Vex 9 could respond, Admiral Chen entered the chamber. Her presence seemed to fill the space despite her relatively small size compared to the crystalline Zephyrians. Observer Vex 9, Chen said with a polite nod. I trust you're finding the restoration work satisfactory. Admiral Chen, I must ask, how did your people accomplish something that the council's best experts said was impossible? Chen's smile was sharp. Observer, your experts told you it was impossible because they were thinking like prey. They saw the Devourers as an unstoppable force of nature. We saw them as just another apex predator that needed to be put down. The difference in perspective changes everything, but the restoration work is what civilized beings do for each other, Chen interrupted gently. You don't just eliminate a threat and leave. You help rebuild what was damaged. You make things better than they were before. That's the whole point of civilization, isn't it? The Zephyrian lead counselor's harmonious voice took on a tone that Vex 9 had never heard before, one of deep respect and gratitude. Observer, we have made a decision that we hope you will convey to the Galactic Council. We are offering humanity full membership in the Zephyrian Collective. Vex 9's sensor reading spiked with shock. But that honor has never been extended to another species. The Zephyrian Collective has been a single-species entity for over 10,000 years. Times change, while another counselor noted. We have learned that there are beings in this universe who will answer a call for help, even when it costs them nothing to ignore it. Such beings deserve to be honored. Admiral Chen bowed respectfully to the Zephyrian Council. We are honored by your offer, and Earth will give it the consideration it deserves. However, I should point out that we're not doing this for recognition. We're doing it because it's right. 3 weeks later, when the Galactic Council delegation finally arrived in the Zephyrian system, they found a thriving civilization under human protection and a very different political landscape than they had expected. News of the human success spread throughout the galaxy. Faster than any official council communication, other species began asking uncomfortable questions about why the council had abandoned the Zephyrians when help was clearly possible. More importantly, other species began reaching out to humanity directly. Admiral Chen was reviewing the latest batch of communication requests when Commander Torres approached with a new message. Admiral, we've got another distress call. The Kalari Republic is reporting some kind of plague that's affecting their food production systems. They're asking specifically for human assistance. Chen looked up from her reports. What did the council tell them? The council classified it as a manageable internal matter and recommended they handle it themselves. The Kalari aren't buying it. They want the people who saved the Zephyrians. Chen stood up and moved to the tactical display showing the galaxy beyond human space. Dozens of stars were highlighted now. Species that had sent messages asking for help, for trade, for protection, or just for contact with the beings who had done the impossible. You know what, Torres? I think we're going to need a bigger fleet. Ma'am? Chen's smile was the expression of someone who had found her calling. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we need more ships, more Marines, more doctors, and more engineers. It looks like the galaxy has figured out what humans do when someone calls for help. And what's that, Admiral? We answer. As the human fleet prepared to depart for Kalari space, Admiral Chen took one last look at the restored Zephyrian worlds. 3 planets that had been dead and lifeless now sparkled with renewed energy, their crystal forests singing in harmonious frequencies that could be detected across the system. The galaxy had called humanity too dangerous, too violent, too unpredictable for civilized space. They had been right about all of those things. But they had failed to understand that sometimes civilization needed someone dangerous enough to fight monsters, violent enough to win wars, and unpredictable enough to help strangers simply because it was the right thing to do. The Galactic Council would learn to live with that reality. The rest of the galaxy already had.